that's when it clicked. And I certainly it might be because I myself am a woman, but you know, in terms of stereotypes, I think potentially, this is just a theory, but that Asian woman hero figures are less burdened by stereotypes because they're usually sexualized and not really negative in that superficial sense, at least. Whereas I think the stereotype of Asian men in the United States has largely been to emasculate them and make them seem like dweeby accountants or, you know, what I don't even need to repeat some of this stuff. But,
well, you know, there's actually just a quick anecdote about that. I've spoken a lot of, and I think, you know, we probably all have, about media images and, you know, how terrible it is to have this image of kind of the, you know, nerdy, glasses-wearing Asian, you know, who loves computers. And, you know, one day when I was actually doing this panel, I was like, oh my God, I am that stereotype. I should be demonstrating from my own mirror or something. But, you know, I do think that there's some truth to that in the sense that there's always been kind of more room for Asian American women images in the media for various reasons, and I don't think that there are reasons that are necessarily empowering. You know, certainly that sort of sexualized image is its own negative stereotype. I mean, obviously, you know, we all know that. But you know, one of the things we try to do actually with this girl power section was, in fact, to address both of those. You know, the dimension of women heroes being depicted automatically as kind of double D cup, you know, spandex wearing.
Well, what I was actually going to posit was the reason I like the girl power section was because the heroism is much more based in realism. It's actually very real, very mundane episodes, really. I mean, a woman going through a birthday party with an eating disorder, or why can't I remember the one? Helen Jo, she's one of my favorite cartoonists, but I wouldn't call her a realist. Her art's not realistic at all. But, you know, I don't think the stereotypes are attacked as head-on as they are in the decidedly more male section, where clearly there's some frustration with the emasculation, whereas perhaps even if it's not empowering, I mean, I'm actually able to take advantage of the stereotypes about Asian women. I mean, my last name boyfriend thought I was a virgin, and I don't really care. But you know, whereas with men, it might be a little bit more difficult to make it, you know, fantastic. You guys are on the back of the Village Voice, so you know, how do you?
Well, we are. It's a slightly different section. Yeah, you know, it is kind of funny though, because the preface, you know, we did sort of semi-fictionalized preface telling the story of how the book came into being. And one of the things we do there was we sort of play on this notion of, you know, how stereotypes can sometimes have a silver lining. You know, so in this particular instance, we talk about how, you know, that kung fu stereotype sometimes is an advantage. If you're about to get your ass kicked, if everybody thinks you know how to do kung fu, you can like sort of, you know. Anyway, but you know, I think there's a point there. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, I think kind of one of the metatextual things about the book is that we decided to tell these stories through the vehicle of the superhero story. And that kind of goes along with what you're saying about, you know, when you think of the stereotype of the superhero, it is this hyper-masculine, you know.
And sexualized.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, you hear a lot about like the sexualization of female superhero characters, but, you know, look at Superman without a shirt on, it's pretty, you know, sexualized too. I mean, you know, a lot of us are wearing underwear. There's a reason they're wearing underwear on the outside of their tights, you know. So, you know, I think that there is something kind of ironic about telling these stories through the vehicle of the superhero story. And that was part of, I think,
that's
why we did.
I would say that's even for me at least the crux of the problem. Like, you know, how to deal with the positive and negative stereotypes, whether you're acknowledging them or not. They're just so great. And then I actually, since we're talking about this, and you know, the very first question I asked was, who didn't make the cut? But vis-a-vis this realism that I alluded to, obviously there are a lot of depictions of Asian Americans in, I guess what's loosely termed graphic novels and graphic literature. But what do you think about? I know that in just comics, industry, there is a dichotomy between, the hardbound, drawn quarterly published graphic fiction literature, and then superhero comics, Men in Tights. So, where do you think Asians fit in that scheme, in that divide?
One of the cool things about this book is that it's not just a diversity of different, Asian ethnicities, but it's a diversity of artists and storytelling styles, and this comes down to the notion, like a lot of people think of, when they think of comics, average people on the street, you think of comics, you're thinking of whatever the big superhero movie that just came out is. But comics is just, everybody who loves comics, knows comics is a very diverse field, and this book, reflects that as well, which actually goes to your earlier question, just about like the different ways different artists are taking on the notion of a superhero. And I think that's the strength. That's one of the big. That's why I love anthologies in general, because when you have an anthology that's loosely based on a certain theme, you can get a lot of different angles into it. It just provokes a lot of different thought, and I think that's one of the virtues of this book.